There's a certain kind of darkness in the Pine Barrens, one that feels heavier than just trees blocking out the sky. It's the kind of darkness that makes even grown adults pause before stepping off the trail, because something in your instincts keeps whispering that you're being watched. Locals shrug it off during daylight, brushing the stories aside with the same tired jokes their parents told them. But as soon as dusk settles in and the wind starts moving through those endless pines, the laughter stops. And that's when the forest feels different. On certain nights, when the air turns sharp and wet with mist, people swear they hear something cutting through the quiet. A sound that doesn't belong to any animal they know. Too high for a fox, too jagged for an owl, and too guttural for anything that walks on four legs. It's a sound that makes your spine tense before your mind can even explain why. A scream, twisted, layered, like it's half living and half something else entirely. The Pine Barrens have always carried mysteries, unmarked graves swallowed by roots, abandoned cabins with no footprints leading in or out, fires that start with no spark. But one legend rises above all of them, old enough that nobody knows where the truth ends and the superstition begins. A creature people have insisted for centuries isn't just folklore, but something alive, moving in the dark, following the same paths it carved more than 300 years ago. Because if you've ever driven through that forest at night, then you already know the feeling. This is the story of the Jersey Devil, the legendary creature from the Pine Barrens of New Jersey. To understand the Jersey Devil, you have to go back to a time when early America was still raw and unforgiving. The Pine Barrens in the early 1700s weren't the quiet, rustic retreat people romanticize today. They were a harsh wilderness, avoided by most and inhabited by the few who either had no choice or no fear. Poor families, outcasts, and people escaping debt often found themselves living among those crooked pines, trying to survive in the one place nobody else wanted. Among them was a woman known in local stories as Mother Leeds. Her real name might have been Deborah or Jane, depending on which old record you believe, but history remembers her simply as Mother Leeds. She lived in a small, weather-beaten cabin with her 12 children, 12 hungry, rowdy, constantly needing children. Life for her was not gentle. Every season brought its own kind of hardship, and every new mouth to feed seemed to stretch her to a breaking point she never quite recovered from. So when she found out she was pregnant for the 13th time, something inside her snapped. Whether it was exhaustion, despair, anger, or a moment of bitter humor turned sour, nobody really knows. But the legend says she cursed the child growing inside her. Not metaphorically, not behind closed doors. She cursed it aloud, with the same intensity a desperate person uses when they feel like life is mocking them. She supposedly shouted that she hoped the child would be the devil himself, a sentence spoken in frustration, or something deeper. The night of the birth felt wrong long before the first scream. The wind hammered against the cabin walls, rattling the shutters like something trying to get in. A storm rolled in with a suddenness that locals later insisted was unnatural, lightning splitting the sky over and over as if refusing to let the night go dark. Inside that cramped little room, Mother Leeds labored through a grueling birth with a few midwives by her side, unaware of the horror waiting just a few minutes ahead. The baby came into the world looking perfectly normal. A small, quiet newborn, slick with sweat and heat and the chaos of childbirth. But before anyone had time to breathe, before they could even clean the child's face, the air in the room changed. Witnesses claimed the baby's skin began to twist and tighten. Its limbs stretched unnaturally, bones cracked like dry branches snapping underfoot. The soft cry of a newborn turned into a sharp, violent shriek. In seconds, the child transformed into something no human language truly describes the same way. But everyone agreed on one thing. Whatever it became, it wasn't human anymore. The creature attacked the women in the room, knocking over furniture and sending panicked screams into the storm outside. Then, as if drawn by something beyond the walls, it rushed to the fireplace, scrambled up the chimney, and vanished into the night, leaving behind only blood, smoke, and the echo of a scream no one present would ever forget. Within hours, whispers spread through the community. People spoke of curses, witches, demonic bargains, and punishments from beyond. And deep in the Pine Barrens, hunters later claimed they saw something winged crossing the treetops, silhouetted by lightning, something that shouldn't have been able to fly. The story of the Jersey Devil didn't just begin with a monster. It began with a curse, a storm, and a birth that should never have happened. For more than 3 centuries, people have tried to describe the Jersey Devil, but no two accounts match perfectly. The details shift from witness to witness, but the overall shape, the unnerving silhouette, never really changes. It's always something tall, thin, and wrong, something that looks like it was meant to be one creature, but was forced into the body of another. Most descriptions begin with its head. Some swear it resembles a gaunt, elongated horse skull, stretched too far and too narrow, like the bone beneath the skin is desperately trying to break free. Others insist the head is closer to a goat's, angular, sharp, with curling horns that jut unnaturally from its temples. Either way, the face tends to move in ways that don't feel animalistic. Witnesses talk about its eyes the most. 2 bright points of glowing red or sickly yellow that lock onto you like they're deciding what you are: prey, threat, or something else entirely. Its body is skeletal, tall but gaunt, with a rib cage that looks too pronounced, as if starvation shaped it more than muscle ever did. The creature walks strangely, half upright, half slouched, with a jerking, twitching quality that makes it feel like it's learning how to move as it goes. Some say its bones jut out beneath its skin. Others say it seems almost leathery, like the hide of an animal that's been dried out in the sun. The wings are what haunt most people. They're leathery, bat-like, and much larger than they should be for its thin frame. When folded against its back, they look like torn shadows clinging to its body. When spread, they stretch unnaturally wide, long enough that some witnesses claim they brushed both sides of narrow dirt roads. They flap with a heavy, rubbery sound, like thick canvas being snapped in the wind. And sometimes, witnesses swear the creature doesn't flap them at all. It just glides, drifting silently between the trees as if gravity doesn't apply to it. Its legs end in cloven hooves, a detail so consistent that even skeptics find it hard to ignore. These hooves are often found stamped deep into mud or sand, usually in patterns that make no sense. Tracks that suddenly stop in the middle of open ground, prints that change direction without any shift in the soil, and sometimes sets of tracks that appear to walk on rooftops before disappearing entirely. And then there's the tail, long, thin, and whip-like, almost reptilian. Some describe it as straight and twitching, while others say it curls like a serpent behind the creature as if it moves on its own. And then there is the cry, a piercing, guttural scream, often compared to a woman in agony or a dying animal. It cuts through the woods like something tearing fabric. People who hear it never forget it. Many freeze, others run. Some say it's the one sound that convinces even the boldest skeptics that something is alive in the pines. No matter how you piece the descriptions together, one thing becomes clear. The Jersey Devil rarely looks like it belongs here. It looks like something that slipped into our world and has been struggling against its own form ever since. Trying to understand the Jersey Devil's behavior is like trying to solve a puzzle when half the pieces belong to a different game. It doesn't act like a predator, it doesn't act like a scavenger, and it certainly doesn't behave like a territorial animal defending a home range. Instead, it moves with an unpredictability that feels almost intentional. Like whatever it is, it doesn't play by the same instincts as normal creatures. Most sightings happen at night, usually during winter or after heavy storms, as if the creature is drawn out by the cold or unsettled air. People claim it drifts silently between trees, gliding low to the ground before vanishing behind a thicket of pines. It rarely approaches directly. Instead, it circles, tests, observes. The feeling of being watched is often the first sign, long before anybody hears a wing beat or catches a glimpse of glowing eyes in the branches. Despite its monstrous appearance, the Jersey Devil doesn't kill for sport. When livestock is found dead, The injuries are strange, sometimes precise, almost surgical. Other times so chaotic it's impossible to tell what happened. Sheep drained of blood, chickens found untouched but frightened to death, hoof prints leading straight to a barn and then stopping as if the creature simply lifted straight into the air. Its personality is harder to pin down. Some accounts describe it as aggressive, charging wagons, clawing at windows, and shrieking loud enough to shake the glass. Others describe it standing still, watching from a distance like it's curious about the humans who've invaded its forest. Hunters who've locked eyes with it report feeling an immediate, overwhelming dread, not because the creature threatened them, but because its gaze felt too aware, too human in some strange, uncomfortable way. There are stories where it behaves almost mischievously, farmers waking to find only one oddly placed hoofprint on their roof, travelers spotting it perched on a fence, staring just long enough to be remembered, entire groups hearing its cry but never seeing anything at all. It's as if the Jersey Devil slips between two states. One moment a frantic, thrashing beast, the next a careful, calculating observer. But the one trait that shows up again and again, across centuries, across towns, across every kind of witness, is its restlessness. The creature never stays in one place long. It darts from tree to tree, crosses frozen rivers in seconds, vanishes into fog as if it knows every hidden path in the barrens. Even when cornered or shot at, it seems more startled than wounded, like its fear response isn't pain or anger, but retreat. As if surviving here, staying unseen, is its only true instinct. People sometimes ask why it doesn't attack more often, or why it hasn't left a trail of bodies behind it. But maybe the Jersey Devil isn't hunting at all. Maybe it's simply enduring, caught in a world it was never meant to inhabit, wandering through the pines in the only way it knows how. Whatever its nature truly is, one thing is clear. The Jersey Devil moves through the Pine Barrens like a shadow with a heartbeat, never settling, never explaining, and never letting anyone get close enough to understand what it really wants. In the decades after the creature's legendary birth, the Pine Barrens developed a reputation that spread far beyond New Jersey. Those early settlers may not have had modern roads or electricity, but they had ears, sharp ones. Word traveled through taverns, churchyards, and trading posts about strange footprints, eerie screams in the night, and a winged figure gliding between trees long after it should have vanished into folklore. The earliest accounts came from farmers who lived on the outskirts of the barrens. They spoke of livestock found dead in ways no known predator could explain. Sheep were torn apart without signs of struggle. Horses were found trembling and soaked in sweat, their stalls splintered like something had tried to break in or break out. Some animals refused to cross certain fields entirely, skittish and alert, as if they sensed something humans couldn't. Travelers added their own stories. Men guiding wagons along lonely roads claimed they saw a long, thin shape dart across the path, illuminated for only a heartbeat by lantern light before vanishing into the brush. Some said it moved faster than any deer and made a sound somewhere between a hiss and a scream. Others swore they saw wings, wide, leathery, unmistakable, unfolding in the dark. But nothing cemented the legend like winter sightings. Snow gave the Pine Barrens a silent stage, and that silence made every event harder to ignore. There are records from the late 1700s describing hoofprints that appeared overnight on rooftops, in fenced-in yards, even on the frozen surface of shallow ponds. What made these tracks disturbing wasn't just their shape, it was the way they traveled. Perfectly straight lines that didn't follow fences or paths. Steps that kept going across impossible terrain. Prints that ended abruptly in the middle of open snow, as if the creature simply lifted into the air and disappeared. By the early 1800s, the legend grew so persistent that even people of status began to take notice. One of the most famous stories involves Joseph Bonaparte, the older brother of Napoleon and former King of Spain. After being exiled, he bought a massive estate in New Jersey and frequently hunted in the barrens. According to his own claim, while out alone one winter night, he encountered a creature he couldn't explain. Tall, winged, with glowing eyes reflecting moonlight back at him like two burning coals. The animal stared for several long seconds before bolting into the trees with a shriek that haunted him for years. Bonaparte wasn't a superstitious local or a frightened farmhand. He was royalty, a man with education, influence, and absolutely no reason to lie. His account gave the legend a sudden weight it had never had before. Throughout the 1800s, sightings continued at a steady trickle. Sailors reported a winged beast circling above the coastline during foggy nights. Hunters claimed it paced them through the woods without ever revealing itself fully. Children whispered about seeing shadows perched on branches where no birds ever roosted. The Pine Barrens became a place defined by whispers, a wilderness where people walked faster, spoke softer, and tried not to think about what might be lurking just out of sight. These weren't random campfire stories. These were testimonies from people living hard lives in unforgiving land, people who didn't have the luxury of inventing monsters just for entertainment. And then, in the winter of 1909, all those centuries of fear erupted into something no one was prepared for. Hey everyone, before we continue, I've got some exciting news. My weekly video is now live on my new channel, Index Unknown. That's where I dive into the hidden side of history, the secrets, the theories, the conspiracies, the things they don't want you to know. The latest upload covers Malaysia Airlines Flight MH370, the plane that vanished in 2014 without a trace, leaving behind one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. Was it mechanical failure, foul play, or something no one's been willing to admit? The link's below if you're interested. Check it out after this video. By the time the 20th century arrived, the Jersey Devil was already a well-known monster in New Jersey folklore. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared the region for what happened in January of 1909. It's one of the rare moments in American history where an entire population became gripped by a single fear at the exact same time. For one extraordinary week, the Jersey Devil didn't feel like a legend. It felt real, it felt present, and it felt unbelievably active. Everything began quietly on Monday, January 16th. A few towns in southern New Jersey reported strange hoofprints in the snow, oddly deep, oddly spaced, and found in places no animal could realistically reach. Rooftops, backyards sealed behind fences, paths that crossed rivers without breaking stride. People woke up, saw the tracks, and immediately recognized the shape. By the next morning, newspapers were already printing headlines. More towns found prints. Schools closed because parents were too afraid to let their children walk outside. Hunters strapped rifles over their shoulders and formed search parties, but the tracks they followed led them in circles, vanished abruptly, or reappeared miles away with no logical trail between them. Then the creature itself started appearing. Witnesses claimed they saw a winged beast perched on rooftops, gliding over backyards, or darting through fog with a scream so sharp it sent dogs running. In the town of Haddon Heights, a group of men reported firing directly at it. They said the creature screamed, spread its wings, and soared into the sky unharmed. The sightings intensified. In Woodbury, the creature was reported flying over the streets at dawn. In Camden, a trolley car full of passengers claimed it landed on the roof and shook the entire vehicle. In Bristol, Pennsylvania, police officers swore they cornered it in an alleyway, only for it to rear up, open its wings, and vanish into the night in a blur of motion. Towns all across New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware woke up to the same eerie, impossible tracks. Schools announced emergency closures, factories shut down, armed guards were placed outside various buildings. Even government officials commented publicly, trying to calm the chaos without dismissing it outright. The panic peaked mid-week when a fire department in West Collingswood reported being attacked by the creature. According to their account, the beast swooped at them repeatedly, screaming and flapping its wings with violent force. The men fought it off with hoses and brooms until it retreated into the dark. That moment ended any remaining doubt. This wasn't just a rumor anymore. It felt like an invasion. By the end of the week, the sightings simply stopped. The creature vanished as abruptly as it appeared. People slowly returned to their routines, but the fear didn't fade easily. Newspapers across the country reprinted the stories, turning the Jersey Devil into a national obsession. Skeptics debated the events. Believers claimed vindication. and countless families went to bed wondering whether the thing that screamed in the night might return. Over a century later, those 7 days in 1909 remain one of the most intense mass sightings of any creature in American history, famous enough that researchers still analyze the reports, track patterns, and debate what really happened. But for the people who lived through it, the explanation didn't matter. They were convinced the Jersey Devil had emerged from the Pine Barrens with a vengeance, and for a terrifying week, the world believed them. The Great Panic of 1909 may have been the moment the legend exploded, but it wasn't the end of the story. If anything, it marked the beginning of a new era, one where the Jersey Devil stepped out of folklore and into the unsettling category of active sightings. And over the last century, the encounters that followed have been just as strange, just as frightening, and sometimes even more believable than the ones from early America. Most modern sightings come from people who aren't looking for anything unusual: late-night commuters, hikers, delivery drivers, hunters, and families living near the edges of the Pine Barrens. These are ordinary individuals in everyday situations who suddenly find themselves face-to-face with something they can't explain. In the 1920s and 30s, several motorists reported seeing a tall, winged figure crossing the road in front of their cars. The creature moved awkwardly, almost limping, before launching itself into the air with a single, powerful motion. Some described the same chilling detail: the creature didn't flap its wings right away. It just glided upward, drifting into the treetops like it weighed nothing at all. By the 1950s, entire neighborhoods in southern New Jersey claimed the devil was returning. Residents of Gibbstown and Pennsauken swore they heard ear-splitting screams echoing through the woods at night, sounds so loud and sharp they woke people from their sleep. Police responded to dozens of calls, but by the time they arrived, there was nothing left but silence and the occasional set of hoofprints that stopped abruptly in the middle of the road. One of the most unsettling encounters occurred in 1972, when a group of boys riding their bikes near a bridge in Bridgeton claimed a thing with wings crawled out from underneath the structure and stared at them with glowing red eyes. The boys dropped their bikes and ran, returning later with adults who found the mud disturbed, the underbrush torn apart, and large tracks leading into a swampy patch of trees. Another striking case happened in 1980, when a forest ranger reported a winged creature perched on a dead tree about 20 feet off the ground. According to his report, the creature stayed still for several seconds, long enough for him to process that the shape he was looking at had hooves dangling beneath it. The ranger raised his flashlight, and the moment the beam touched it, the creature opened its wings and screamed. He said the sound wasn't like any bird, mammal, or human. It was something he felt in his chest more than heard in his ears. Even in the early 2000s, sightings continued. Hikers in Wharton State Forest reported hearing something enormous sweeping overhead in the dark. A couple driving late at night near Leeds Point, ironically the supposed birthplace of the creature, claimed a long, thin figure with wings landed briefly on the hood of their car before launching off into the darkness. They said the hooves dented their vehicle. Mechanics later confirmed the damage but couldn't explain the shape. And then there are the recordings. Campers have captured terrifying, inhuman screams deep in the Barrens, sounds that don't match any known animal native to the region. Some videos show dark shapes gliding between trees. Others show glowing eyes reflecting in the brush before vanishing. Most are grainy, shaky, or filmed at night, but there's a consistency to their details that becomes harder to brush off the more you study them. Yet perhaps the most chilling encounters aren't the loud ones. They're the quiet ones. People hiking alone have reported the feeling of being followed, footsteps matching their pace in the brush, only to stop the moment they stop. Drivers have caught glimpses of something perched on the edge of a tree line, watching them. Residents living near the Barrens talk about seeing a tall silhouette standing at the edge of their property in the early morning fog, motionless until the moment they blink. For skeptics, it's easy to dismiss these accounts as imagination, misidentification, or fear of the unknown. But for the people who encounter it, the details are too distinct, too familiar, and too eerily consistent with centuries of reports. The Pine Barrens haven't become quieter over time. If anything, they've become louder. And whatever moves in those woods hasn't faded with history. It's adapted to it. For as long as the Jersey Devil has been part of American folklore, people have tried to explain it, either to demystify the creature, justify the sightings, or convince themselves there's nothing truly stalking the Pine Barrens. Yet every explanation seems to solve one piece of the puzzle while creating a new problem elsewhere. Theories come in waves, some grounded, some outrageous, and some unsettlingly plausible. The most common explanation is the Mother Leeds theory, that the entire legend grew out of a real woman named Deborah or Jane Leeds, whose large family and poor living conditions became the foundation for a cursed child story. Some historians believe the tale was partly political, used to slander the Leeds family during colonial feuds. According to this view, the Jersey Devil wasn't born out of supernatural horror, but out of local gossip, religious panic, and community grudges. It makes sense on paper, except it doesn't explain the centuries of sightings, tracks, and consistent physical descriptions that followed long after the Leeds family faded from relevance. Skeptics point to misidentified animals, a malformed deer, a sandhill crane, a large owl distorted by shadows or fog. And while those explanations sound reasonable, they fall apart when you consider the details witnesses repeatedly describe: hooves, wings, glowing eyes, a skeletal frame, a whip-like tail. Even cranes, among the largest birds in North America, don't leave cloven tracks on rooftops or scream with the voice of something that sounds neither bird nor mammal. Cryptozoologists offer another theory, that the Jersey Devil could be a surviving relic species, some unknown winged creature adapted to the Pine Barrens' isolation. The Barrens stretch across more than 1 million acres, vast, dense, and surprisingly untouched. It's not impossible, they argue, that something strange evolved there long before colonists arrived. This explanation accounts for the creature's odd movement patterns, nocturnal habits, and ability to remain unseen. But it still doesn't explain the legendary Leeds birth or why such a creature would resemble a stitched-together parody of multiple animals. Then there are the supernatural theories, which take the legend at face value. Some believe the Jersey Devil is exactly what early settlers claimed: a demon, a cursed child, a creature torn between two realms. They point to the creature's ability to appear and vanish quickly, the way its tracks end mid-stride, and the fact that no one has ever caught it, killed it, or found a body. In folklore, demons don't fade with time. They linger, they haunt, they persist through generations, just as the Jersey Devil seems to do. Another theory suggests the creature is a tulpa-like phenomenon, a manifestation born from centuries of belief and fear. In other words, the legend itself created something real, something that takes form because so many minds, over so many years, gave it shape. This explanation blends psychology with the supernatural, suggesting that the Pine Barrens may hold on to emotions the same way they hold on to mist. If enough people fear a thing, perhaps the fear becomes real. And then, among hunters and people who've spent their lives in the Barrens, there's a quieter theory, that the Jersey Devil is not one creature, but many. They argue that sightings span too many centuries for a single being to survive. The variations in appearance from generation to generation hint that something might be breeding, changing, or evolving. Maybe the Leeds legend describes the origin of the first, but not the last. Maybe the truth isn't in any single theory. Maybe it's in the spaces between them, the same spaces where the creature itself is always hiding. The Jersey Devil may be a myth to some, a monster to others, but to the people who've heard that sound with their own ears, it's a presence, a warning, a piece of the forest that refuses to die. And the next time you find yourself driving through the Barrens after dark, windows down, radio off, nothing but the road and the trees on either side, listen closely. You might not hear anything, or you might hear exactly what they've been talking about for the last 300 years.